Welcome to the Thai Expat Daily Show. We are a new commentary news channel, bringing you all the latest stories from Thailand and beyond. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel to receive more updates on new content. So let's get into today's top stories. Hello and welcome back to today's show. We have a number of stories which I think will be of noteworthy to our expat community out there. So firstly, just a couple of updates since yesterday. Phuket has now got a soft curfew, they call it, and I don't quite know what a soft curfew means. I think it means, well, they're asking you to stay in, but it's not exactly a law, so who knows. Anyway, for anybody living in Phuket, you're meant to stay in your home between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. Every evening until, I think it's the 15th of May. Not 100% sure, but apparently that's the law or the rule right now. Another rule that's come in today, which is a very odd one, is for people who live in Surat Thani, and that includes obviously Koh Samui, Koh Phangan and Koh Tao. It has prohibited drinking alcohol in groups of 2 or more people in homes and other places from today onwards. Violators will face up to 2 years in prison and or a 40,000 Thai baht fine. Unbelievable. So your wife and yourself apparently can't sit in your home and have a beer together. You will be violating the law. Guys, I think we're heading into some dangerous territory around here with these kind of bizarre laws. I mean, who's making these up? I understand somewhat the logic of it. I mean, Thai people can't go to bars and clubs now, so they're sitting at home. They're inviting people over. Okay, but Jesus, 2 or more. So at least you can be an alcoholic by yourself still. So that's the positive side. Now, a story that we've touched on over the last couple of days is the latest about this expat over 60s with underlying conditions can register for free COVID vaccinations in June and July. Now we'll just stop down because this story is a bit odd the way it goes through. But foreign residents and expats who are over 60 or have an underlying disease can register now for the second wave of the Thai government vaccination process, which inoculation is scheduled to be carried out in June and July. The vaccine will be free. It comes as the third virus wave crisis shows no sign yet of slowing down. With the warning from top virologist, we're not even going to say this guy's name because he actually annoys me, that everything must be done to secure the country's southern border with Malaysia. And he goes on anyway, it goes on a bit there about, So this is again going on from what I've spoken about during the week, where we have people being able to register on the MorePom app, and some people actually getting reservations and appointments for vaccination in June, using their pink Thai ID card or their social security number. And that's all great. But as I said, I think it's a problem with the system and not the generosity of the Thai government. So today, last night, I noticed a story on the Phuket news about how Phuket are doing their own vaccination process. And they've told anyone who's registered on the MorePom app that all their appointments will be cancelled and they have to make it through Phuket's own version of this. It's called, I think, PhuketWin.com, but it's not that. It's something in Thai. And you have to go on there and you have to register for your vaccine through there, not through the government official app. Again, confusing, I know. Now, it only mentions Thai people in it. So I was reading down through the rules and regulations, and again, there seems to be no way for foreigners to be able to register. So they have a Line app, and I decided to add them online and give them a quick message. And I basically asked them, what exactly is the story with foreigners? I see that, if you go to here, they blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so I went through it with them, and the reply I got back was very simple. There is no expat policy yet. Expats are not included. So that's direct from the Phuket Public Health. So who's right? Who's wrong? I don't believe that we are still included. There was also another statement today on Twitter from a Tani Sangrat. He is, I think, the deputy spokesman of the Ministry for Foreign Affairs. And he was replying to somebody who had asked, what about foreigners? Will we be vaccinated? He said, yes, all foreigners will be provided vaccination. The details are being worked out by agencies concerned. That's a very politician type answer, isn't it? So to me, it says that the policy has not changed. It's still, they're not taking bookings from foreigners, even though people are registering. And my worry is that people are going to turn up and they're going to be turned away. And that's something we certainly don't want to happen. So if you don't get a vaccine here, what do you do? Well, one of the options that are available or is available to you is maybe to go back to your home country. Obviously, it depends where you're from and, what part of the world you're in. So I'm from Ireland, okay? Lovely country that it is. And, I have considered, firstly, I didn't know if I was eligible to go back home to get a vaccine and then come back to Thailand. I mean, because I haven't lived in Ireland for nearly 10 years. So that firstly was the first thing that was on my mind. And obviously then there's other factors in going. So the first thing I did, and this will obviously apply, I think, to many people, especially in European countries and America, where you're probably eligible to go back home and get the vaccine. So it all has to be thought out how you're going to do it. So the first thing I did was I hopped on and I emailed the HSE, which is the Health Service Executive in Ireland. And I gave them a quick email. I explained to them my case that I'm living here, but that the Thai government are very reluctant. There's no plan for us. And what are my options? And I must say I was very happy to receive an email back basically saying, you're entitled to a vaccine here in Ireland. If you travel back, you will get one. So the way the process is going in Ireland, obviously it's going by age and it's going down the list. So basically when it gets to my age, so I'm approximately in my mid-40s, when it gets to my age, I will be able to register anytime after my age comes up. And then on the positive side of things, the vaccines for my age group will be Pfizer or Moderna. So I'm quite happy to take either one of those vaccines. So that's the first consideration. Yes, I can go back and get it. Now there's obviously some other considerations. Flights, regulations going into the country, going back to Thailand, and whether or not I will have to quarantine, etc., etc. So my plan, if I can't get something here or don't see at least the light at the end of the tunnel for foreigners or expats in Thailand, will be to try go home. But that only works on a couple of levels. Number one, I will need Phuket to reopen to international travel with no quarantine for vaccinated travellers. So in other words, I get the vaccine, I can fly back, I can stay in my home for a week, and then that's fine. Not a big deal. But obviously if I have to start paying for ASQ hotels, that's certainly not something I want to go down the road of, because that's very, very expensive. So looking into flights and the way I have to get to Ireland, using any of the Middle Eastern airlines is out, because they all land obviously in Dubai or Abu Dhabi or Qatar, and unfortunately all those countries are on the red list in Ireland, which means I will have to do a mandatory 14-day quarantine in a hotel in Ireland. So I can't, even if I stop there for 2 or 3 hours, I'm considered to be in that country, and then I must do the quarantine. So the basis is, how do I get there? I've been looking. I think one of the best ways is to fly to Frankfurt on Lufthansa or Amsterdam on KLM and then straight to Ireland. So I get to Ireland. Now the rules say that I have to have a COVID PCR test 72 hours before I fly. And then I present that at the immigration in Ireland, and then I'm free to go back to my home, and I have to home quarantine for 14 days. But there is a way to get out of that, and that's on day 5 that you do a COVID test. And if that is negative, you're free to leave your 14-day home quarantine and get on with what you need to do. So then the next thing will be to get my vaccine. In Ireland, it is 3 weeks between Pfizer first and third. And then it depends on when Thailand says you have to be 2 weeks after your second one. So it'll be probably about 5 weeks at home. Then hopefully I have to fly back to Phuket, assuming that can be done. And that will be it, really. So, I mean, it is doable. I don't think it's going to cost a huge amount of money to do. But I mean, obviously my better option, and what I'm hoping, like every expat in this country who wants to get the vaccine, that we'll be able to get it in Thailand. Whether we get it free or we have to pay for it, I don't think anybody really is too bothered about it either way. To me, I don't mind having to pay for it. I don't mind putting the hand in the pocket. You know, my wife is the same. She's happy to pay for it too. But we would hope to get something better if we have to pay for it. So maybe something along the Pfizer or Moderna or the one-shot Johnson & Johnson. But I mean, if I'd have to pay for AstraZeneca, I'd pay for that too. So, I mean, overall, it's, you know, the main thing is getting vaccinated. The main thing is trying to get our lives back to a reasonable normal. International travel, tourists coming to the country, spending their money, you know, the Thai people starting to earn money. I mean, some of the towns, as I said yesterday in my podcast that I've seen, it's just devastation. And we want that to end. And everyone wants to work towards that. So I think it's very beneficial for us to get vaccinated. I think a lot of people, the UK as well, you're still eligible to fly back and get your vaccination there. I just read a story today that they're starting to do vaccination holidays to America. So you can go get your vaccine, have a holiday in America, and then fly back. Interesting. Well, it was bound to happen. Let's be honest. You know, if there's money to be made, a travel agent will be always on top of it. But of course, there's no talk. I think a lot of this is very dependent on vaccinated travelers being able to enter Thailand without having to do quarantine, and it all hinges on that. For me as well, and for people, businesses are trying to come up with new concepts for vaccine travel as well. So really, let's hope these things improve along the way. But I mean, there are options out there for some of us. I mean, if we're prepared to fly home, if we're prepared to travel. Other than that, we have to sit and wait and hope that the talk with the government comes through quickly with at least a statement of intent. Not just saying, yes, you will be, but we don't have any details, and that's nonsense. I don't think it would be that hard for the Thai government to create a separate portal if they need to, and to have foreigners, expats, register on this website with your passport number, with your immigration status, whether you work here or not, whatever it may be. Okay, and I don't see the problem with doing it like that. And then you just integrate it in with the system of the other thing, so you fill up slots. You know, there's still a lot of vaccine hesitancy in Thailand, I think. I think people are fearful of Sinovac. I think people are fearful of vaccines because they see what's going on around the world and they only ever hear the bad stuff. They don't hear the good stuff. Well, if you think about it, an awful lot of people have been vaccinated and are perfectly fine. But it's only a tiny, minute number that have had any kind of reactions. But with everything, there's always a risk of a reaction. No matter what medicine you take, if you take a paracetamol, have a look on the back, you know. It lists all the different things the reactions you could have. So it's a risk, but I think it's a risk worth taking. But we need things to kick off here. I mean, even for the Thai people in Thailand, the vaccination process is terribly slow. I think we've got 1.2 million vaccines done. That's it. Out of 66 million people, they vaccinated something like 4,000 people first dose yesterday and 3,000 second dose. I mean, that's pathetic. I mean, that's hang your head in shame kind of time, you know. But let's hope things get better along the way. Anyway, I don't have much today, guys. It's a quiet day. There's not much going on in the news. Some day there's loads of things to talk about. Other day there's not. I am planning this week to interview an expat who works in the general area here as a food and beverage director of a hotel. So we're going to have him on the show during the week and just ask him how things have affected him, his life and his work. And maybe on Sunday, we'll go through the Sunday newspapers here in Thailand and through the Nation and the Bangkok Post. Well, that's it for today, and thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe to the channel to receive more content in the future. Have a great day and stay safe.